What if I told you the truth behind why married women often become the easiest prey in relationships? This isn't about cliches or stereotypes. It's the hidden truth that many refuse to talk about. A truth that may make you question everything you thought you knew about love, desire, and infidelity. Imagine being in a marriage that seems perfect on the outside, but beneath the surface, something is quietly unraveling. Why do so many married women, despite their commitment, become vulnerable to temptation? What's going on in their minds? And more importantly, how does this vulnerability get exploited? Let's be clear. This isn't about blaming the victims or pointing fingers. It's not about saying women are weak or that they've somehow failed their marriages. No, what we're dealing with here is much deeper. It's about understanding the psychological triggers, the unmet emotional needs, and the power dynamics that silently shape every relationship. Most of us think that love is enough to keep a marriage intact. But what if it's not? What if there are forces, internal and external, that make even the strongest marriages vulnerable? First, let's talk about the emotional side of things. Marriage is often portrayed as a lifelong bond based on love and trust. But what happens when the emotional connection begins to fade? When the daily grind of life, the endless responsibilities, and the repetitive routines take their toll, it's easy to get lost in the chaos, to feel overlooked or unappreciated, and to start seeking that validation from somewhere else. The reality is, many women in marriages experience a deep longing for something more, a deeper connection, a spark that reminds them they are desirable, wanted, and needed. This is where things get dangerous. It doesn't take much for someone to notice, to take advantage of this vulnerability, and to slowly creep into that emotional void. But here's the kicker. These actions aren't always about seeking out a physical affair. Often, it's about the desire to feel alive again, to feel valued in a way that is no longer happening at home. The temptation doesn't always come in the form of a person. It can manifest as an idea, a need for attention, or a simple conversation that escalates into something far more dangerous. This is where the predators step in, ready to capitalize on the gaps that have formed over time. Now, I want you to stop and think about something. How many times have you heard someone, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or a family member, say they feel unseen in their marriage? How often do we overlook the simple things, the small gestures that matter, because we're so busy chasing after bigger goals? These small, seemingly insignificant moments add up, and before you know it, the emotional chasm is too wide to bridge. This is the moment when someone else comes along, offering what was once freely given within the safety of a marriage. By now, you may be wondering, how can this be changed? Is it possible to protect our marriages from these psychological forces? Or are we all doomed to repeat the same mistakes? Stick with me, because what we're uncovering here might just give you the key to understanding how to protect your own relationships and avoid the pitfalls that so many fall into. The truth is, there is hope, but it requires awareness, introspection, and action. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the more you'll realize about how these dynamics shape our lives in ways we never thought possible. The illusion of marriage is something we all buy into at one point or another. Society has painted it as this perfect, everlasting commitment, a bond that should stand the test of time. But the reality is far more complex, and in many cases, it's a mask for something far more fragile. People enter into marriage with the belief that they are securing their futures, not just emotionally, but financially and socially as well. It's a safety net, a shield against the unknown. But what happens when that net starts to fray? At first, everything seems perfect, doesn't it? You get the house, the wedding, the happily ever after. But what happens when the excitement fades? When the things that once made the relationship thrilling, those late night talks, those stolen kisses, begin to feel like distant memories? What happens when the day-to-day reality of life sets in? You start to wonder if this is really all there is. You start questioning if this person, the one who once seemed like your everything, is really the one who understands you. And that's when the cracks begin to show. The truth is, the idea that marriage is a forever type of commitment is a dangerous illusion. It's not just the fairy tale we've been told to believe, but a social construct that comes with its own set of expectations. Most of the time, marriage is about stability. It's about fitting into the mold that society has set for you. It's not necessarily about pure love, but rather about what's expected from you. And when the excitement fades and the reality of that commitment sinks in, many find themselves yearning for something more, something that makes them feel alive again. Marriage, for all its promises of security, doesn't guarantee fulfillment. It doesn't always provide the emotional connection that we crave as humans. Take a moment and think about it. How many times have you heard someone say that they love their spouse but feel unfulfilled in their marriage? The truth is, people are complex. We are wired for connection, for excitement, for novelty, and yet, marriage often becomes a routine, a trap. A woman may declare her love, but inside, she may be longing for that spark that's gone missing. She may crave the thrill of being desired by someone new, someone who can make her feel seen in a way that her spouse no longer does. The shift in dynamics doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow burn, a series of small moments where you realize that the passion is gone. And with it, the connection you once had. The mundane takes over, the silence at the dinner table, the distance when you try to connect. And in that void, it's easy to feel tempted to look elsewhere, to seek out excitement, to find something that reignites that part of you that has been dulled by years of monotony. It's hard to admit, but marriage often isn't the unbreakable bond we think it is. The dynamics shift, sometimes without us even realizing it, and we find ourselves questioning everything we once believed. The truth is, we are all susceptible to the allure of something new, something different, and when we feel unappreciated or unseen in the confines of our marriage, it's only human nature to seek that fulfillment elsewhere. This isn't an excuse for betrayal, but it's a reality we can no longer ignore. Relationships, Even the most committed ones are not immune to the forces of desire and dissatisfaction that exist within us all. So, what does this all mean? It means that the notion of marriage as the ultimate form of security is flawed. It's not about the vows you take or the ring you wear. It's about the emotional, physical, and mental connection that you continue to build day after day. Without that connection, marriage is just a contract, a piece of paper that doesn't guarantee happiness or fulfillment. And when that connection starts to fade, we are all left searching for something to fill the void. Before marriage, women are a force of nature. They are selective, aware of their worth, and intentional about how they present themselves to men. There's a certain mystique to them, an aura of intrigue that makes them stand out in any crowd. This isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about knowing one's value. They make men work for their attention, not out of malice, but because they understand the power of the chase. The chase, in many ways, is what drives men to invest emotionally, physically, and, yes, financially. When a woman holds her ground and doesn't give herself away too easily, she keeps the man's interest piqued. It's a dance, a game of give and take, where both sides are playing their part. The thing is, it works. Men love the pursuit because it validates their desire, making them feel like they're working for something worth having. The mystery heightens the attraction. It's a game of cat and mouse, and every step of the chase adds fuel to the fire. This isn't just about physical attraction. It's about the emotional connection that forms when someone is willing to put in the effort. The longer the chase lasts, the deeper the emotional investment grows. And for many men, that's when they start to really see the woman for who she is. It's thrilling, it's exciting, and it makes both parties feel alive. But here's the thing. The dynamics shift dramatically once marriage happens. The woman who once had men chasing after her, who knew how to keep them intrigued, now finds herself in a completely different position. Marriage marks the end of the chase. She's secured her man. The excitement of being pursued fades, and with it, the spark that once ignited her sense of adventure. The mystery evaporates. The thrilling back and forth that once kept both of them on their toes starts to feel more like routine. And the emotional investment that was once so intense begins to wane. Now, the woman who once made men fight for her attention no longer needs to keep up the mystery. She no longer has to be elusive or selective. She has already secured her place in his life. This isn't to say that marriage isn't meaningful. It is. But the dynamics change. The emotional thrill of the chase is replaced by the reality of living together. Sharing bills, handling daily responsibilities, and navigating life's challenges. What once felt like a victory, the capture of the elusive prize, is now seen as just another part of life. And for some women, the lack of that initial excitement, that sense of being desired and fought for, leaves a hollow feeling in its place. The transformation is profound. The woman who once commanded attention, who could make a man work hard for her love, now finds herself grappling with the loss of that power. The chase is over, and with it, She may start to feel like she's lost something too, something that she didn't even realize she needed until it was gone. What was once a thrilling game becomes an afterthought, and in that shift, many women begin to question what they've sacrificed. The emotional investment shifts from the excitement of being desired to the daily grind of maintaining a relationship. The stakes aren't as high anymore. The chase may be over, but the work of love is far from finished. It's not as glamorous, it's not as exciting, but it's real, and sometimes, real life doesn't come with the same thrill as the chase. In a committed marriage, stability becomes the ultimate goal, the anchor that keeps everything grounded. But what happens when stability becomes the very thing that kills the excitement? Stability can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provides security, the comfort of knowing that you're in a safe, predictable environment, but on the other hand, it's this very predictability that breeds boredom, the thrill of being desired, the excitement of the unknown. Those were the things that once made her feel alive. They gave her life a sense of mystery, a reason to look forward to the next moment. Without those elements, the connection starts to feel stagnant, and something crucial begins to slip away, the spark. At first, the stability feels reassuring, the routine of life, the shared responsibilities, the quiet evenings together, they all offer a sense of comfort. But eventually, something shifts. The things that once felt thrilling, the things that once made her heart race, now feel dull and repetitive. There's no more chasing, no more mystery. The spontaneity that once kept her on her toes fades away, leaving behind a predictable cycle. She begins to feel like she's seen all there is to see, experienced all there is to experience. The excitement that once flowed through the relationship is replaced by routine. And in that routine, she starts to feel disconnected from the woman she once was, the woman who craved excitement, who thrived on the unpredictability of life and love. The emotional shift is subtle, but it's there. What once was thrilling, the chase, the longing, the mystery, is now a distant memory. The very things that made her initially desirable, the elusiveness, the allure, are gone. And with that loss, something within her starts to crave something new, something that stirs the emotions again. This isn't about not loving her husband. This isn't about wanting to leave or to betray the trust that has been built. It's not about him at all. Really, it's about the shift that happens when the initial chemistry fades and the thrill of the unknown is replaced by the certainty of the everyday. It's about the hunger for something that ignites the emotions once more. Something that makes her feel alive again. The question isn't whether she loves him. It's whether the relationship can evolve in a way that still keeps the excitement alive. When the chase is over, when the mystery no longer exists, what is left to keep the connection vibrant? What happens when the comfort of knowing each other too well begins to feel suffocating? Like there's nothing more to discover? The woman who once thrived on the tension, on the anticipation, now finds herself yearning for the rush that came with unpredictability. The relationship that once felt full of possibility starts to feel predictable. And with that predictability comes a hunger for something more, It's not about dissatisfaction. It's about the emotional need for something that stirs her. Something that brings the intensity back into the relationship. The excitement, the desire, the thrill, it's all still there. But it needs to be reawakened, renewed, and that, my friends, is the challenge of any long-term relationship. How to keep the thrill alive when the comfort of stability starts to overshadow it. As time passes in a married woman might begin to seek validation outside her relationship, not because she's looking for a new partner, but because she longs for something that seems to have slipped away, excitement. It's the subtle shift that begins when she notices the routine creeping into her life. When the emotional spark that once made her feel special begins to fade. She's not unhappy in her marriage, not dissatisfied with her husband, but there's an itch she can't quite scratch. She starts to crave something more, something that makes her feel seen, heard, and, most importantly, desired again. It's not about betraying her marriage. It's about reclaiming the feeling of being alive. The feeling of being wanted as a woman. The search for excitement outside the marriage often starts small, almost unnoticeable. It might be a lingering glance from someone at a party, a playful comment that ignites something inside her. Maybe it's a light flirtation or a conversation that makes her feel seen in a way that has been missing for years. These moments, these small interactions, serve as a reminder of what it feels like to be desired, to be appreciated as more than just a wife or a mother. The attention doesn't have to be overt or dramatic. It's the simple acknowledgement that she still has value, that she still has a spark, and in those moments, she remembers who she was before she became just a caretaker, before her identity was entirely defined by her role as a wife and mother. Social media, flirting, or even reckless behavior in social settings can become outlets for married women to feel alive again. It's not about seeking an affair or trying to escape her marriage. It's about the intoxicating rush of attention. The brief but powerful reminder of what it's like to be desired. She might post a picture, receive compliments, or find herself in a conversation with someone who makes her feel like the confident, vibrant woman she used to be. It's not about dissatisfaction with her husband. It's about reigniting the parts of herself that she feels she's lost over time. The attention from others allows her to reclaim that sense of confidence and allure that she thought she'd buried beneath the demands of family and commitment. It's crucial to understand that this desire for attention is not a reflection of unhappiness in the marriage. It's about a deeper, more personal need to reconnect with a part of herself that has been neglected. She wants to be seen, not just as a wife or mother, but as a woman in her own right, someone who still has value, someone who is still captivating and worthy of admiration. For many married women, this attention represents a way to feel whole again, to acknowledge the parts of themselves that have been buried under the weight of family responsibilities. It's a search for identity, for self-worth, for excitement. It's not about escaping her marriage, it's about finding herself again. Finding that part of her that has been silenced by the everyday grind of life. The power of attention is undeniable. It has the ability to remind a woman of her strength, her allure, her individuality. It brings back the feeling of being wanted, of being desired, not as a mother, not as a wife, but simply as herself. And in that small, fleeting moment of attention, she feels alive once again. It's not about rejecting her marriage or her commitment. It's about reclaiming the parts of herself that make her feel powerful, capable, and, most importantly, desired. Many men who get involved with married women believe they have everything under control. They view it as a thrilling escape, a way to break free from the monotony of their own lives. It's an exciting secret, one that brings with it the rush of the forbidden. They think they are the ones calling the shots, playing the game on their own terms. But what starts as a simple escape quickly evolves into something much more complicated. A dangerous emotional mess that nobody truly sees coming. What seemed like a temporary indulgence soon becomes an emotional roller coaster, one with highs that feel intoxicating, but lows that can drag them down into a pit of confusion and pain. The affair with a married woman is, in many ways, a paradox. She is emotionally unavailable, tied to her marriage, yet she remains within reach, tantalizingly close. For many men, this is what makes the affair so appealing. It feels like something real, something tangible. She's there, but not fully there, and that in itself creates an emotional high. The secrecy of it all, of sneaking around, of sharing stolen moments, becomes addictive. Men begin to crave that rush, the thrill of having someone to themselves, even if only for brief moments. The idea of having a secret, of being the one who makes her feel desired and special, is intoxicating. It becomes a game, one that they believe they are winning. But the question becomes, what happens when that secrecy starts to unravel? The truth is, what may seem like a passionate love affair often ends up being a fragile illusion. Men often mistake the secrecy and excitement for something real, something that could be turned into a long-term relationship. But the woman is in a different place emotionally. She is already emotionally committed to her marriage. Even if that commitment isn't fulfilling her, she's seeking an escape, a break from the routine, not necessarily a new life. The affair is her temporary outlet, a way to feel desired, to feel alive again. But for the man involved, the stakes are different. He believes that if he just plays his cards right, he can turn the affair into something more permanent. He starts to dream of a future together, of a life without secrets. But the reality is that the woman may never share that vision. What many men fail to realize is that they are emotionally gambling. They invest time, energy, and heart into someone who isn't available in the way they hope. The affair may provide them with excitement, validation, and an emotional high, but it is ultimately a dead end. The woman might never leave her husband, and she may never want to build a future with the man who is, in essence, just a fleeting escape. It's a dangerous emotional trap, one that many men fall into, convinced that they can somehow win, that they can make something real out of a situation that was never meant to last. The paradox of the affair lies in this imbalance of desires. The man seeking something real and lasting, while the woman seeks nothing more than a temporary respite from her own emotional struggles. The longer the affair goes on, the more tangled the emotions become, with one party wanting more, and the other remaining distant, unwilling or unable to give what the other is seeking. In the end, both sides are left holding onto an illusion, and the emotional risks for men are far greater than they might ever have anticipated. What started as a thrilling escape ends up leaving both parties trapped in a web of unmet expectations and painful realizations. Infidelity doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, gradual process that builds over time, often unnoticed until it's too late. What begins as subtle dissatisfaction and unmet emotional needs eventually grows into a deeper yearning. It starts small, perhaps an offhand comment, a small distance, a glance that lingers too long, but over time, these small cracks begin to widen. The erosion of respect, the fading of passion, the daily grind that leaves little room for connection, it all accumulates. And before you know it, what once seemed like a solid relationship has slowly been transformed into something fragile. Infidelity is rarely a rash decision. It's the result of emotional shifts that happen gradually. It starts in the mind long before physical betrayal ever takes place. It's the emotional neglect, the feelings of being unseen or unappreciated, that begin to take root deep inside. And when those feelings are left unresolved, the temptation to look elsewhere becomes more difficult to resist. When a married woman seeks outside attention, it's not necessarily because she's looking for a better partner. It's because she craves something different, something that she's no longer getting at home. It's about the excitement of the unknown, the validation of feeling desired again, and the temporary escape from the routine that's come to dominate her life. The day-to-day struggles, the constant responsibilities, the overwhelming roles she's taken on, they've left her feeling disconnected. She might still love her husband, but the spark that once made her feel alive has diminished. She no longer feels emotionally connected, and when the passion fades, the temptation to find that excitement somewhere else becomes overpowering. There's a certain allure to the forbidden, a magnetic pull that makes infidelity seem like an escape from the monotony. It's not that she's seeking to replace her partner. It's that she wants to reclaim a part of herself that feels lost. The affair becomes a way to reignite that feeling of being alive, to remind herself that she's still desirable, still capable of exciting someone else. It's not about finding a better partner or even about love. It's about feeling wanted, feeling seen in a way that has been absent for too long. The attention from someone else, the flirtation, the secret moments of connection, it's all intoxicating. It feeds her ego, boosts her confidence, and temporarily fills the emotional void that's grown in her marriage. The temptation isn't just about physical attraction or finding a better match. It's the emotional escape that infidelity offers. When the emotional connection with her husband fades, when the once exciting relationship has become predictable and safe, she starts to crave something that stirs her, something that brings back the passion she feels she's lost. Infidelity, in many ways, is a response to those unmet emotional needs. It's the consequence of a marriage where the emotional intimacy has been neglected for too long, where the spark has dwindled to the point of being unrecognizable, and when the allure of the forbidden becomes stronger than the comfort of the familiar. Infidelity feels like the only way to break free from the suffocating routine and rediscover a piece of herself that's been buried. When a man becomes involved with a married woman, he risks far more than just a fleeting fling or a simple affair. He risks becoming emotionally entangled in a situation where he is not the one calling the shots. He may think he's in control, but the truth is, he is walking into a dynamic where she sets the pace, the frequency, and the intensity of the relationship. He might believe that he's the one who can make this work, that he's different, that she'll eventually choose him over her husband. But what he doesn't realize is that he's already playing a game that's rigged from the start. At first, it might feel like an exciting escape, the thrill of secrecy, of being the one she turns to when things aren't going right in her marriage. It can feel intoxicating, knowing that you're someone's secret, that you're providing something she's no longer getting at home. But as emotions get more involved, the situation becomes more complicated, and the lines begin to blur. The man, once content with the excitement of the affair, begins to want more. He begins to think that there's more to it than just passion. He wants commitment. He wants to be the one she chooses, the one who will make her leave her husband and build a life together. He convinces himself that this is something real, something special, something that could turn into a long-term relationship. But here lies the painful truth. For her, the man is just a temporary distraction. The affair was never meant to be a long-term solution. It was an escape, a way to feel desired, to regain that spark that had long been lost in her marriage. She is emotionally unavailable, tethered to a life and a commitment she can't easily walk away from. She may care about him, but her emotional attachment lies with her husband. The affair, for her, was never about finding true love or building a future. It was about reigniting a sense of excitement, of breaking free from the monotony, of finding a way to feel alive again. The moment he starts to want more, the moment he begins to demand more, emotionally, physically, or even in terms of her time, she pulls away. She may not do this out of malice, but because, for her, the affair was always meant to stay within certain boundaries. She didn't need him to become her everything. She needed him to remain just a part of her escape. The emotional consequences for the man are far more profound than he might expect. He's invested emotionally, thinking that there is potential for a future with her, but she is already emotionally disconnected, unable to offer him what he longs for. The emotional toll on the man can be devastating. He's left grappling with feelings of rejection and inadequacy. He believed he could be her escape, her knight in shining armor. But instead, he's left in the shadows, a temporary placeholder in her life. It's a harsh reality, one where he is left with emotional scars that are hard to heal. While she continues to live her life, content with the temporary escape the affair provided, the illusion of being the one is shattered, leaving him to face the painful truth: he was never her priority. Respect is the cornerstone of any successful marriage. It's the invisible thread that holds everything together, ensuring that both partners feel valued and cherished. Without respect, loyalty is difficult to maintain. Once respect begins to erode, the foundation of the marriage starts to crack, and loyalty follows suit. A woman who loses respect for her husband no longer feels the same emotional connection to him. She no longer feels bound by the loyalty that once kept her committed to him. And slowly, the bond between them weakens. The slow loss of respect can be subtle at first. It might start with small things: a dismissive comment, a lack of appreciation for the efforts he puts in, or a growing frustration with his actions or behavior. At first, she might not even realize that her respect for him is diminishing. But as time goes on, these small moments add up, and the respect she once held for him begins to slip away. It's not that she doesn't care. It's just that the admiration she once had for him fades. And with that, the emotional connection between them starts to wane. When a woman stops respecting her husband, the dynamics of their relationship change drastically. She begins to see him differently, no longer as a partner, but as someone who feels weak, predictable, and replaceable. The person she once admired and looked up to now seems mundane, and the attraction she once had for him begins to fade. She starts to question everything about the marriage, wondering if she's made a mistake or if there's something better out there. The intimacy she once felt for him is replaced by indifference, and in its place, she begins to look elsewhere for that spark, that excitement that she feels is missing in her marriage. Without respect, admiration naturally fades, and with it, attraction dies. The emotional connection that once kept them close becomes a distant memory, and she starts to seek out someone who excites her. Someone who doesn't feel as predictable or as worn down by the routines of everyday life. The allure of the new, the unknown, becomes an enticing escape from the familiarity that has replaced passion in her marriage. The search for excitement outside the marriage becomes a way to fill the void created by the erosion of respect. This slow, gradual loss of respect is often the beginning of the end. It's a silent killer, quietly undermining the foundation of the marriage until one day, the damage is irreversible. It's not about grand gestures or explosive arguments. It's the small, unnoticed shifts that occur over time. The lack of appreciation, the quiet disregard for her partner's efforts, the growing emotional distance. These are the signs that respect is fading. And when respect is gone, so is the loyalty that once held the marriage together. What remains is a shell of what once was, and the woman who once vowed to stay now finds herself questioning her commitment, seeking something she believes will reignite the passion that's long since died. Many men enter marriage believing that simply exchanging vows is enough to guarantee security, loyalty, and respect. They think that once the commitment is made, the relationship will naturally endure, that the bond is unbreakable. But the truth is, Marriage alone won't keep a woman from seeking attention elsewhere. It's easy to assume that loyalty is a given once the wedding ring is on the finger. But in reality, loyalty is something that must be continuously earned. It's not something that automatically comes with the ceremony or the promises made. It's something that requires ongoing effort, emotional investment, and genuine connection. The mistake many men make is assuming that the commitment they made years ago is all that is needed to keep their partner loyal. They think that because they've been together for a long time, the bond is secure, and the dynamic will remain the same. But as time goes on, relationships evolve. Without continuous effort, respect can erode, and with it, the emotional intimacy that once defined the marriage. Loyalty, much like respect, can't be taken for granted. It must be nurtured. If a man becomes complacent, assuming that his role in the relationship is secure, he risks losing the very thing he thinks is guaranteed. It's a fallacy to believe that commitment alone will keep her by your side. A man who becomes passive in his relationship, who stops putting in the effort to connect emotionally or physically, will eventually see his partner's interest fade. The key to keeping a woman's interest is not in begging or pleading for her attention. It's in standing firm in your own self-respect. A woman is far more likely to respect and remain loyal to a man who values himself, who maintains his independence, and who does not rely solely on her for validation. A man who respects himself does not settle for mediocrity in his relationship. He recognizes that respect and emotional connection are earned and maintained through effort, attention, and mutual understanding. Self-respect is not about arrogance or pride. It's about knowing your own worth and not allowing yourself to be taken for granted. When a man respects himself, he sets the tone for how he expects to be treated. This sense of self-worth becomes magnetic. It attracts the respect and admiration of others, including his partner. In a marriage, when a man shows that he values himself, it reinforces the foundation of the relationship, keeping the emotional connection strong and the loyalty intact. It's not enough to simply promise loyalty or assume it will always be there. A marriage that survives the test of time requires constant growth, mutual effort, and most importantly, respect for oneself and for one's partner. Without this, even the strongest of vows can crumble, and what was once a secure relationship can quickly become a distant memory. Every relationship, no matter how strong or fragile, is shaped by a series of choices. It's not just the grand decisions, the moments that define the beginning or the end of the partnership. It's the daily choices we make, whether to respect one another, whether to be honest, whether to stay committed or to walk away. Each choice, no matter how small it seems in the moment, builds the foundation for the future of that relationship. When respect starts to slip, when honesty becomes a casualty, or when commitment begins to wane, the relationship weakens. Piece by piece, the power of choice is undeniable. The decisions made in moments of temptation or frustration will echo through the future of the bond, either fortifying it or causing it to collapse. For some, the temptation of short-term excitement becomes irresistible, the thrill of something new, the rush of secrecy, the fleeting joy of feeling desired. It all seems worth the risk. But seeking short-term excitement at the expense of long-term stability is a gamble. And like all gambles, the house doesn't always win. The excitement, the illicit thrills, might feel like a form of escape, but those temporary pleasures often come with a hefty price tag. Every action, every decision, no matter how insignificant it may seem in the moment, has lasting consequences. What feels like a harmless distraction today can unravel everything tomorrow. The path chosen today can echo for years to come, leaving behind emotional scars, broken trust, and a sense of regret that can't easily be undone. The affair, though thrilling in the heat of the moment, is always temporary. The excitement fades, the secrecy turns into guilt, and the once thrilling escape becomes a haunting reminder of choices made. When it ends, because it always does, it leaves behind nothing but the harsh truth that it was never meant to last. The man, caught up in the excitement, often believes that this is the beginning of something real, but when the affair ends, he is left with nothing but the realization that he was never the priority. She moves on, back to her life, back to her marriage, back to the reality she never truly escaped from. The man, however, is left to pick up the pieces of an illusion he never should have believed in. He's left with the emotional wreckage, the broken promises, and the painful truth that he was never her first choice. He was simply a temporary distraction in a life that continued without him. The affair may have seemed like a doorway to something better, something more exciting, but the truth is, it was always just a fleeting moment in time. The consequences of those choices, of seeking short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term stability, linger long after the affair ends. The power of choice is undeniable, and once the affair is over, the man is forced to face the consequences of his decisions. It's a painful realization, one that often comes too late, but it's a truth that can't be ignored. In the end, it's the long-term choices that matter, and the fleeting excitement of the affair was never worth the cost. In the end, relationships are built on choices. Every action, every word, every moment of silence shapes the foundation on which the relationship stands. If you're in a relationship where respect has faded, where loyalty is no longer guaranteed, it's time for honest reflection. Ask yourself, have you allowed complacency to creep in? Have you become passive, assuming that just because you're committed, things will work out? Or perhaps, you've been holding on to something that is no longer serving you or your partner. Afraid to face the uncomfortable truth that change is needed. Relationships require constant effort, understanding, and growth. When those ingredients are missing, everything else begins to crumble. So, now is the time for a decision. Are you willing to make the tough choices, the ones that require vulnerability and courage, to protect your peace of mind and your future? Are you ready to acknowledge that no matter how hard it is, some relationships need to end in order to create space for something better? Or are you willing to put in the hard work to rebuild what was once lost? The power is in your hands. Your actions today shape the relationships of tomorrow. And the steps you take now, whether it's working through the issues or deciding to part ways, will determine the quality of your future emotional well-being. Don't let the fear of the unknown keep you stuck in a cycle that drains you. I urge you to reflect. Think about the choices you've made so far in your relationships. Are they leading you toward a meaningful future? Or are they keeping you trapped in patterns that no longer serve you? It's time to choose the life you deserve, the peace you seek, and the love you need. Now, I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you witnessed or experienced something similar? What choices did you make? And how did they impact your relationships? We all go through challenges, and sometimes hearing someone else's experience can help us see our own situation from a new perspective. Don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth discussions on the psychology of relationships, marriage, and self-respect. Together, we can create a space where we learn, grow, and ultimately build something meaningful. The journey starts with the first step you choose to take today.